Board for some high-speed entertainment with Wogan.
Thank you for the always anticipated indifference of your welcome. I'm delighted to see you, and I would be even more delighted if I had a few words in front of me which I could speak to you. Fortunately, we haven't. You understand? Now, normally I would stand here and ad-lib before you, but you understand, today's a rather special day, as you'll find out a little bit later. And it's important to, as it were, cue properly into film, otherwise the confusion will be appalling. So I'll just say, Mother told me there'd be days like this. Oh. Hello there, me little down and outs. See? So how have you been keeping? Apart from the heart attack. Now, the last few Wogans have been a little out of the ordinary. Yeah. Some of you may have noticed that. And some of you clearly haven't. Sometimes I wonder why I bother. Well, last Friday, we were in Turnberry at the Goof. You've forgotten that quickly as well. On Monday, the programme was longer than usual. Or maybe it just seemed longer. Wednesday, well, Wednesday, wouldn't it? Today, another Friday fiasco. As I'm spending half the programme on a train to Newcastle. How do I do that, I hear you ask? Or I don't hear you. Well, it's the magic of television, that's how. And on the train, I talked to Terry Jones, Delia Smith, and Michael Wood, and Jonathan Miller. And here in the studio, there's a plethora of music, firstly from King. I hate it when they applaud people younger than me. Then, a song and a chat from Dusty Springfield. And if that, yeah. I'm still applauding people younger than me. And if that weren't enough, there'll be a rare chance to see that ageless figure of screen and stage, John Houseman. But first, let me tell you about my day. I thought that working in the evenings meant I could get up late, but no. BBC, in all their wisdom, got me up and out of the crack of dawn today so that I could be at King's Cross Station here in London at a civilised hour to meet a group of literary reprobates. Good morning. I get all the good jobs. You find me beside this throbbing giant. Well, this is the book train heading towards Edinburgh for the Edinburgh Book Fair. Inside, well, I hope there's a driver, but there'll also be all sorts of known and unknown scribes, probably scribbling away even as we speak. Let's go and meet some of them. We've already sped through Potter's Bar. Hardly saw the place at all. Don't shout author, for goodness sake, we'll all be killed in the rush. Michael Wood, talking to Jonathan Miller. Probably something intellectual. I hardly understood a word. Two poets, Brian Patton, Roger McGough. This, of course, being the book train on its way to Edinburgh. And there, Tim Rice, pretending he can play chess with Margaret Travel. The Sikorsky move with epaulets. That's the one. The silver English countryside, barely whizzing by as we continue our train journey. Terry Jones, as I live and breathe. Already the worst for drink this morning.
Well, no, only one glass, actually, yes.
You authors, of course, are known to be fond of the booze, aren't you?
I do enjoy wine. You're quite right, Terry. How did you guess?
Well, no, we'd heard that talk about you. You like trains?
I do. I suddenly realised I'm going to my favourite city, Edinburgh. I'm going by my favourite method of transport, and I'm doing my favourite thing.
So what are you doing? I mean, you only write children's books, for goodness sake.
Well, this is
You're not a proper author, are you?
This is what I feel, too. I mean, that's somebody somewhere.
Oh!
Cycling the souls and spirits of Bushwell, yes.
That's our doppelganger, don't mind.
Yes, I keep feeling somebody's going to rumble me sooner or later, you know, and realise they're not proper books, you know, they're just kind of stories.
On Eric the Viking, is that what you based
Yes,
the
this one, I'm not quite sure. I'm opening the Children's Book Festival or something, I think. I don't know what it is, but I'm sure it's jolly good. And I think there's a paperback of Eric the Viking coming out, which is a book I wrote a couple of years ago.
Is there going to be a film of that as well?
Yes, I'm just sort of talking with Warner Brothers and the US of A, and we're just sort of finalising a deal to make
But
that.
you're going to direct that as well as writing?
Yeah, I think that's the answer.
That's pretty
the
exciting.
idea.
I mean, you've directed for the Monty Python movies as well.
Yeah.
I mean, do you view that, or do you approach that with any kind of apprehension?
Well, I mean, you know, when you do something new, it's always sort of a bit apprehensive, and you're not sure whether you really can do it. But it's actually, I like directing actually, because it's, I mean, it's hard work writing. You know, you're sitting there scribbling away and you're trying to think of ideas. But in directing, it's all kind of people coming up to you and saying, "Do we do this or that?" And you say yes or no, and it's kind of
Feeds your power complex, do you think?
It's just not power so much. It's just sort of, it's relaxing because everything's there, and it's just a question of making choices, if you see what I mean. Whereas writing, it's dredging something up out of nothing, you know, after you've got the kids off to school, and you've had a terrible breakfast, and the wife's gone off to work, and she's fed up with you, and you've got to sit down in your little room and sort of
It's hard
think
to
of
work
something.
at home, isn't it? Very hard.
Yeah, so I don't know. I've done it for 20 years,
Yeah.
so I don't know any other.
I know. Well, I know very little beyond this as
Yes.
well.
You don't exist when the television cameras
no,
go off.
I
I've noticed that.
I
Yes,
stop living.
That's right.
So while I'm on the television, I take advantage of it. Did you turn down Spielberg?
Oh,
Famous in film history for turning down Steven Spielberg.
But it wasn't quite like that, really.
I'll go on.
It was a very funny phone call, actually. I was told that Steven Spielberg wants to phone you, and he'll be phoning you in about a month's time. And so I've never had such a build-up to a phone call before. And about a week beforehand, somebody rang from LA saying, Mr. Spielberg's going to be ringing you next week. So I said, fine, and it was arranged. And then about sort of 6 o'clock, the fatal evening, telephone went, bling, bling, bling. That's Mr. Spielberg's office. He's going to be ringing you in 3 hours' time. Sorry, Mr. Spielberg's going to be ringing you in half an hour's time. And then finally, Mr. Spielberg was on the phone, sort of talking to me, and I sort of, I said, I love your films, Stephen. You always go. And then it was a bit embarrassing because I said, he said he was interested in me writing Gremlins 2, and I sort of said, well, I was busy, you know, and I didn't. And he said, oh, well, in that case, forget it. After all that, yes.
You turn the man down. Now look, I have here the Oxford Companion to English Literature, edited by Margaret Drabble. An extremely thick volume.
An excellent tone,
yeah,
may I say, Terry.
you wouldn't find yourself in that because, of course, the serious authors are in this.
Well, this may amaze you, Terry, or may not, but in fact, I am in there, in fact.
Oh,
This is
under what?
amazing. Under Chaucer. Canterbury Tales. You have to look up
Yeah.
Canterbury Tales. I was quite
There's
amazed.
Chaucer, yes, I don't know how I found that. There you are.
There you are.
Oh, Canterbury Tales.
Yes, Canterbury Tales mentions me there. See, I can go straight to my name.
I see, yes.
On page
It's-
165. That's it.
Oh, hello,
Put it away,
Delia.
put it away.
Delia Smith. What a surprise to see you. If I didn't know you'd been standing there for the last 10 minutes. Do you know each other?
Delia, yes, we do know each other.
How grand to have brought you together like this.
Yes.
You're not in here as well, are
I'm
you?
afraid not, no. I didn't make it, no.
Yeah. What have you been doing since we last chatted?
Well, I've been around the country signing books for people who said, I saw you on the Terry Wogan show. And the book's done terribly well. Thank you for the lovely
No,
launch
for
you gave
goodness
it.
sake. It was great. I enjoyed tasting. I love that.
You
that
did.
part of it.
But I've got to ask you something. When the family were on holiday, did you actually cook anything for yourself? Did you do
Not
it?
a single solitary thing. I looked at all the pictures, because I like looking at pictures of cookery and stuff.
Hit them up and showed, said the family, there, you could be eating that if you...
Yeah, no, I didn't. I mean, I had a lot of good friends who took me out and got me drunk and filled me full of their somewhat indifferent cooking.
I see.
But no, I mustn't say that. I'll never be entertained in a friend's house again. Yeah.
Do you actually enjoy cooking, really?
Well, yes and no. I mean, I enjoy it up to a point, and then I have enough, and my husband goes off and gets fish and chips, and it's lovely.
It's nice to have brought you together.
It's wonderful.
It's nice to be with you on this train, and eventually, I hope that we'll all
We'll get to Welwyn Garden City.
get as far as Peterborough.
Long, long ago, according to legend back in the 20th century, a strange ritual developed where well-known literary figures would travel from London to Edinburgh on weird conveyances like this, known as trains, in search of the ancient and alas now obsolete art of writing books. And this is actually a book, and amazingly enough, these things were read simply for pleasure. At any rate, on those trains, you could meet in those days the greatest in the land, including Sir Terence Wogan.
Obviously a blunder of some magnitude. Fine-sounding talk from Michael Wood, who's not last seen in search of the Trojan Wars.
Right.
What could you be in search of on this strange, as you say, train journey?
I'm still looking for the Trojans, actually, Terry. I don't think I quite ever found it. But no, whenever I travel, and I really love travelling by train, I'm always in search of things, because you can look out of any window and see a landscape that tells you things about history. See, in fact, when I was an undergraduate, a friend of mine and I had this idea that we would make money by selling to British Rail little leaflets which every traveller could buy, and it would tell you about every landscape that you went through. You see, and we never did it, actually.
Yeah.
Note to agent, sorry.
Have you travelled on this line before, then?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Are there many items of interest as we zap up towards Edinburgh and the 125?
I'll say even the shapes of the fields tell you about who lived here once upon a time, and especially, of course, places like York. You know, I mean, York's just wonderful. One of my favourite. I used to go there when I was a kid.
You could be a terrifically boring travelling companion.
Oh yes, bore them to death. You know, nobody will ever travel with me on British Rail.
Yeah. And train journeys, of course, give you time to look out, drinking and everything. I mean, is your favourite mode of travel?
Yes, I really love train. Yeah, well, boats even better, I think. Just the sort of idea of very slowly boating up a river or things. We all travel too fast in our... I mean, this is 125 miles an hour train, and it's much too fast for my constitution. I really like just that very slow pace, and you get down to the rhythm of things. That's what I like best.
Yeah, but obviously a keen observer. Are you going to be in search of anything else on television in the near future?
Yes. In fact, I'm in search of our own history at the moment. I'm in search of... well, next year is 900 years from William the Conqueror's Doomsday Book, and I'm in search of certain things that have made us what we are. You know, our attitudes to marriage and the family, and you know, democracy and things like that. So
does it in any way depress, or in fact, does it make you cheerier when people say the most interesting thing about the program was the tightness of Michael Wood's jeans?
Well, you know, actually, I even had a cartoon in Private Eye about it recently. Now, the genes have been put down by the vet, and they won't appear in the next series.
Thank you, Michael. We'll be seeing you soon. Let me rush to assure you that was merely coloured sparkling water that I was drinking on that occasion. Countryside of England, such rare beauty. Very like Shepherd's Bush Green, really. In fact, those rolling pastures could be outside this very theatre. I thought I saw a couple of rolling pastures going by as I came in. Still, we break for some music now. And fresh from the success of Love and Pride with their latest single, Alone the Natural's King. Thank you. Our distinguished audience of academicians really enjoyed that. Now, in response to your demands, back to the train. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed, Mother. Well, we're hurtling through York towards Newcastle Station just before lunch broke out. Before our literary lunch, what better aperitif than Dr. Jonathan Miller?
Hello.
Hello. Are you a great observer of people on trains?
I love sitting on trains, but I rarely observe people. But I'm a great observer of landscape on trains. That's what I like. I just simply like seeing the world from an unusual angle, which is what the train gives you. I mean, you can never see this sort of thing from the road, and you can never see it from houses. You can only see it from railway trains.
Do you find that people are more defensive on trains? I know this is slightly different because you're among your friends, or people alleging to be your friends, like Michael Wood. And
Oh, yes, but he's carried it off quite well, the allegation.
Yeah, but normally when you travel on trains, people are slightly uptight, aren't they, about themselves? They turn into themselves. They're afraid to give anything, just in case you might turn out to be a mad mugger.
Well, I think it's mainly because, you see, they can't get away from you. In the street, you pass people, and they're strangers, and they know that they're walking and you're walking, and that your collected speeds will carry you away from each other faster than than you can on a train. But here, sitting on a train, you're forced to confront one another. So
Yes,
that you
it's like
can't.
being on a lift.
Yes, it is. And therefore, there's all that business of dropping eyes. Or on lifts, what you do is you're forced to look at the indicator sign in order to avoid catching the eye of the person next to you.
When you're travelling in a train, do you take the conversation with both hands and attack people verbally? And,
No, I don't.
engaging
No.
way,
I
do
bury
you?
myself in a book from the moment the train.
You hide?
Takes off.
You like
Well, it's not
everybody
that I hide. I enjoy reading on trains or looking at the landscape. I actually rather resent conversations. If people start them on trains, I'll say, yes, very good, and then return. I'm trying to read, and go back to the book if I possibly can. Cantankerousness is the only way of carrying through a train journey.
Yes, and hiding behind the times if you possibly can. Now you've taken a step backwards or forwards into thespian pursuits again.
Yes, well,
it seems,
I never know whether it's
seems-
sideways, really. It's a sort of sidelong
Creep.
slide. Yes, it is.
It seems a scarce 2 years ago when you
3 now.
put it all behind you and said, I'm off to the groves of academe or
That's
medicine.
right. Yes, I know. And I found I got lonely there. I like what I missed, I think, was not the glamour of the stage, because there isn't enormous amount of glamour. It really is the excitement of being with lots of other people and knowing when you go in the morning at 10:30, there are lots and lots of people to chat to. It's the chat and the talk and the fact that there's always someone there in the room with you.
It wasn't the sickness of the bodies that bored you then that
No.
brought you back?
And I didn't really deal very much with patients. I was mostly doing, academic work, and very often that means being alone in a room with yourself, and that's terrible.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're doing the theatre or television or whatever, you know that when you get up in the morning, you've had your breakfast, you go out to some sort of drill hall in Ealing, and there are lots of fellows there. It's very nice.
Do you find that the two overlap? That you'll have some tenor appearing in, say, Rigoletto or Così fan tutte or something, and then he'll turn around and say, Dr. Emilio, it's in my throat.
No,
you know?
they don't. They
No.
all know that I'm never going to do anything medical with them at all, that I always avoid being medical. I run a mile from accidents or anyone who is ill in a cast.
Do you mean that when the shout goes up in the theatre, is there a doctor in the house?
I'm the first one out of the exit. I can't bear it. Because, you see, most doctors are actually paralysed unless they've got all their apparatus with them, you see, and you never have it with you. And unless there are lots of very, very efficient, brisk staff nurses who usually know more than the doctor does about such occasions, and are usually more efficient than doctors. I would hate to have to do anything medical in an emergency. Now, anyway.
You produced this stand-up pop-up medical book, though. didn't you?
Yes, but that's just jokes about the body, and it's the advantage of a cardboard body is that it has no emergencies at all. All you do is close the book again and forget it.
Yeah. Do you think that you'll be stuck with that image? Oh, that's Dr. Jonathan Miller who made that pop-up book.
Oh, I'm quite happy to be stuck with that, rather than actually being asked to come out of an audience in order to do a tracheotomy, which I would hate to do. Because I would have to say, I'm afraid this is going to hurt you more than it does me, you see. And I wouldn't like to be in that situation.
Is your heart still with the opera? Because
I like opera a great deal. I don't think it's more with the opera than it is with straight plays, which I don't know why they're called straight plays for some odd reason, but I have less chance to do plays in England now than I did before, because I mostly deal with the classical theatre, and if you're not in the National or the RSC, you really don't get your hands on big casts, so that in a sense I do opera by default, because I haven't got places to do the ordinary theatre.
while you were working in academic circles, did a lot of new ideas come to the
I
fore?
had a terrific time. In the 3 years I was away, it was like being given a scholarship to just simply learn up the state of the art again. And I spent a lot of time reading about experimental psychology and about what was happening in the study of the nervous system. And it was really like being an undergraduate again and being paid for it.
Now you're herring up to Edinburgh
Yes.
because about 1960 you started Beyond the Fringe there. That
60 was when...
was
yes,
the
when
beginning of the Fringe of the Edinburgh Festival.
Oh no, the Fringe, you see, was something much older than us. And in fact, the reason why we were called Beyond the Fringe was that they were getting very tired. The officials of the festival were getting very fed up with the fact that these various companies were coming in on the Fringe and doing reviews and shows which were often outshone the main festival. So they decided to strike back, you see, and so they got 4 of us together to do a review which was better than the Fringe or Beyond the Fringe, and that was how what seemed to us at the time, that rather odious title, stuck. I mean, we thought it was an appalling title at the time, but it's one of those things that after 25 years it seems like the inevitable title.
You're chairman of the Fringe now, aren't you?
I'm chairman of the Fringe now, which in fact is
Chief of the Quiff.
I have to do absolutely nothing, you see, as chief of the quiff. It's a complete, it's a ceremonial job in which the only thing that happens is that I get to ride down Princess Street in an open car.
In this cavalcade?
In this cavalcade, preceded by a pipe band, and I think often followed by a pipe band. I get to wave at the crowd, and as I advance down, I can see a bow wave of dismay passing through the crowd. Who's that? And there's once someone leaned across the crowd and said, "I know who you are, you're that Peter Cook." Otherwise they're
a foul slur on a fine comedian.
But they're dismayed. Otherwise they're dismayed by my arrival. They honestly wonder why it is that pipe bands and floats and things which represent the various items of the festival, then quite suddenly this rather puzzling open car with this, what looks like a patient being taken off to a hospital which has got into the cavalcade by accident.
Yeah, but that can be very, very, it can bring you down, that, with the lack of public recognition.
Well, but what you do is to simply enforce recognition by, you see, this year they'll remember me from last year. Oh, it's that fellow I saw last year in that open car. You see, and this time I'm going to be recognized as being the fellow who was there last year.
Do you ever see...
Like a wave into the crowd. It's this wonderful movement as one passes rather slowly. Then you come to a jerking standstill, as in fact 4 blocks down the traffic lights have changed, and so the pipe band of Sainsbury's has had to stop, and so gradually the whole thing stops.
That's really embarrassing when you think you're safe and you're moving through the crowds, and to come to a dead halt.
And then you're forced to have conversations with these people who are then forced to actually ask you questions about who you are and what you're doing in this parade.
Yeah. Now you're about to... You'll be undergoing secret negotiations with Jack Lemmon, haven't you?
That's right, yes.
To do the Eugene O'Neill
I'm doing
play.
Long Day's Journey tonight, yes.
So you've got to
great Irish play, in fact.
Yeah. You're going to bring that to London, or...?
Very hard to know whether, in fact, it will. I think it's very unlikely. Mostly, it'll probably be 6 months in New York. If Jack feels very excited by the success, then I think he'll bring it to London.
Well, Dr. Jonathan Miller, we wish you luck with the new play on Broadway, you and Jack Lemmon. Thank you for joining us. Let you go off to your literary lunch now.
Thank you very much
Aboard
indeed.
the train.
Aboard the train, right? This is where the real conversation really begins, down the other end of the train.
And so we cross the mighty Tyne to Newcastle. Look at that. Nearly 10 to 3. How am I ever going to get to the TV theatre by 7 o'clock this evening? Is there another train going to London? Well, as you can see, I didn't make it. I'm but a figment of your overwrought imagination. Anyway, what an extraordinary man, Dr. Jonathan Miller. Now, can you see that little bottle there? Look. That's Nuki Brun, which was presented to me as further evidence of my visit to Newcastle, and pressed upon me by Sandra, who's the area manager secretary of British Rail in Newcastle. You may have a hat to remind you of JR, but a glass of Newcastle Brun will do you better by far. Written by McGonagall, this. Enjoy this, Terry, but remember our slogan. We're getting there at 7, so we can watch Wogan. Boom, boom. Thank you. Thank you, Sandra, and all the girls. Now, we all know my next guest is an Oscar-winning actor in such great films as The Paper Chase,